Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Coaching Masters podcast. Now, I have got my microphone back, which I'm super excited about. So hello. This should sound a lot better than what it has sounded like over the last few days. What we're doing today is we're talking about something that I find very, very, very interesting, a topic in general that I feel needs to be spoken about way more, which is the opportunity of being an online coach. Are you an aspiring coach? That's what we're talking about today. We're asking that question. Are you an aspiring coach? And when I say aspiring coaches, of course, you can be at any level of success and be an aspiring coach. For instance, maybe you have only just made the decision that you are going to become a coach. Maybe you made that decision today. You joined Coaching Mastery, or you've just started listening to the Coaching Masters podcast, and only as of today, you made the decision that you're going to explore the opportunity of becoming a coach. Or maybe you're at the other end of the spectrum. You've been a coach for years. You've seen hundreds of clients. You have a successful online course and you're smashing it. You're making more money than you ever did in your 9-to-5s, your full-time jobs. And now you're living your dream. I would go as far as to say every single person on that spectrum in one way or another is an aspiring coach, because we are always aspiring for more, right? So if you're listening to this podcast and coaching has even crossed your mind, if it has crossed your mind, or you are a successful coach anyway, this podcast is for you. Because if you're brand new to coaching, then what you're going to realize is that this is definitely the number one opportunity in the world at the moment to start your own online business, work entirely from your laptop, travel if you want to, but most importantly, break away from the 9-to-5 that is unfulfilling and start doing something that genuinely changes people's lives for more money than what you were making before, right? So at least you're going to find out that this is an amazing opportunity. And if you are already a coach, it's going to act as a very, very nice reminder as to what an amazing decision you made by becoming a coach whenever you made that decision. And it's also going to act as a great reminder as to why it's a good thing that you're in the coaching industry. And maybe you're going to talk about some stuff that you didn't even really realize. Who knows, right? We're just going to cover a few different bases today. The first thing I want to talk about is the size of the coaching industry compared to the length of time the coaching industry has existed, right? So let me just go back a little bit. We're not going to dive into the depths of we're not going to do a full history lesson as to exactly where coaching came from, how it was created, what therapeutic styles were combined together to create coaches, who were the founding coaches, who were the people that started it. We're not going to go into any of that stuff, right? Because you can go and maybe I'll do another podcast episode just on that. But for now, you can literally just go and find that out. You can go and read about it, go and Google it. But the only one thing that I really do want to highlight to people is how much coaching is in its infancy. And it absolutely is in its infancy. Let's make no mistakes about it. Now, coaching roughly, right? Now, this is very, very rough. As I said, we're not going to go into a history lesson here. Coaching roughly has been around since the 1970s, right? And when I say been around since the 1970s, I'm not talking about coaching as it is today, having been in existence since the 70s. I'm talking about that being the very, very beginning stages of what is to become coaching, right? I'm talking about it being in the very, very beginning stages. So there were various different therapeutic styles that have contributed towards coaching, hypnotherapy, psychotherapy, tons, right? Just if you think about near enough every therapeutic style that there is. And interestingly enough, actually, I just thought one thing that would actually be quite good would be to actually talk to you about those different styles, because there are an unbelievable amount, right? I mean, there's somatic coaching, there's transactional analysis, there's existential coaching, there's gestalt coaching, there's solution-focused coaching, there's system theory, there's theories of change. Now, this is the thing, right? This is what we need to remember is that coaching as we know it, it has been born out of the different styles of theory and the different styles of therapy that have existed for many, many years, many decades, centuries, well before, right? Well before the 1970s. We're talking mindfulness. We're talking cognitive development. We're talking psychometric coaching. We're talking positive psychology, transformative theory, person-centered, neuroscience, right? We're talking loads of stuff. There's so many different types of therapeutic styles that have contributed towards coaching styles. And there's loads of different types of coaching: life coaching, spiritual coaching, corporate coaching, group coaching, team coaching, wellness coaching, career coaching, relationship coaching, business coaching, organizational development coaching, youth coaching, executive coaching. Now there's even sleep coaching, there's diet coaching, there's parenting coaching, there's financial coaching. There is a coaching style for absolutely everything. So the reason why I'm giving this a little bit of a background history lesson, and it will make more sense in a moment as why we're talking about this, but you got to realize that back in the 1970s, where coaching was essentially born, there weren't all of those different styles of coaching. So a lot of people say that coaching came from that time period, the 1970s. And of course, as we know, coaching has been built upon a collective of various different therapeutic styles. However, it has evolved so much in such a tiny amount of time that tells me two things. It tells me that we are still absolutely at the very, very beginning. The very beginning. Coaching is in its infancy. Trust me when I say, right, and you're hearing this directly from one of the co-founders of the Coaching Masters, coaching is in its infancy and it hasn't even started. We are at the very, very beginning. What's really interesting, and I always talk about this because I think it's really important, do not ever let Facebook and Instagram convince you that everybody is a coach. That is so utterly not true. Do not let the algorithms of Facebook and Instagram convince you that everybody is a coach, because the moment that you take even the smallest interest in coaching and you start typing the word coaching into Google, the moment you start having coaching conversations with your friends and family, and Alexa or Siri and all of that, they're listening to you, right? There's no doubt. They definitely are. So they're picking up on the language that you're using. And then all of a sudden you go on Facebook and you might become friends with somebody that's a coach. What Facebook and Instagram and all of the all of the social tech giants do is they utilize that information to create an algorithm that puts coaching in front of you all day, every day. And according to your algorithm and according to your social media platforms, it can become very easy to convince yourselves that everybody's a coach, where in reality, it is the tiniest little drop in the ocean. Now, the ocean is planet Earth with all of its inhabitants. We're talking billions of people. In fact, let's actually get a number, right? How many people on Earth? How many people are on Earth? 7.6 billion people are on Earth right now. Now, I can go as far as to say with absolute confidence and a surety that there are certainly not 7.6 billion coaches on this planet. Now, why do I make that comparison, right? Why do I say that? Because technically, even if every single person on this planet had one coach, and there were 7.6 billion coaches in the world, right? Which is ludicrous, right? We're talking about the population of Earth. There would still be room for more coaches. Now, why do I say that? I say that because it is not unusual for somebody to have multiple coaches when they first really understand the power of coaching. When somebody is coached well and for the first time, and they realize that by hiring a coach, what they have essentially done is that they have hired a time machine, somebody who is going to help them get to where they want to be quicker and overcome the hurdles that they're experiencing quicker, then what do you think that person tends to want to do? They want to hire more coaches for different areas of their life. I'm always talking about this. I want to get to a point where I have a coach for every area of my life, right? I've got various different coaches at the moment in terms of mindset coaches, fitness coaches, business coaches, but I want everything. I want a diet coach. I want a parenting coach. I want a relationship coach. I want just every type of coach there is, just because even those areas of your life that are very, very good, you always have aspirations and you have goals and you want to be able to get to another level, and a coach helps you get there. So there's 7.6 billion people on this planet, right? Every single one of them could benefit from having a coach. Now, how many coaches exist in the world? Well, I can tell you it's not 7.6 billion. It is going to be the tiniest little fraction. And even if the amount of coaches in this world doubled, tripled, quadrupled, and actually we timesed it by 10 and 10 again and 10 again, and we timesed it by 100 and 1,000, it still would not even be a drop in the ocean. So do not ever allow Facebook and Instagram to convince you that everybody is a coach. This is essentially a brand new opportunity. We haven't even scratched the surface, right? And I'm talking like the surface of the surface of the surface. This is a brand new opportunity in a brand new realm, right? Is realm the best way of describing it? It's a brand new... It is a realm, isn't it? It is a brand new realm. It's a brand new industry, right? It's completely brand new. I don't give a shit when people say, oh yeah, but it's been around since the 1970s. The 1970s, right? We're talking 80s, 90s, 0s, 10s, 20s, right? So if you think 1972 is 50 years ago, okay, 1972. Now, I can guarantee there's going to be a few listeners that think, fucking hell, 50 years ago, 1972. That's right, isn't it? 50 years, 80, 90, 0, 10, 20, fuck yeah, 1972, that was 50 years ago. Anyway, 50 years. What's 50 years, right? In the grand scheme of time that humans have inhabited this planet. I mean, I don't even know the number there. Who fucking knows? But 50 years is nothing. It's a blink. And again, the development of the coaching industry that is a brand new industry that has only been around for the last 50 years. And 50 years ago, it hasn't really been around for the last 50 years, because 50 years ago, they were not coaching people in the same way that we're coaching people today. Of course, the industry has evolved. Of course, it's improved, right? Of course, it's moved forward with the times. 50 years ago, there wasn't finance coaches, relationship coaches, parenting coaches. There certainly weren't Bitcoin coaches, let's put it that way, of which there are today. There are coaches in various different niches, every single niche you can think of, right? And still, it's in its infancy. Still, there are not coaches in every niche that exists, because that would be impossible. There are new niches being created every day. So 50 years ago was a blink of an eye, not very long ago. 2, 50 years ago, coaching didn't exist in the same way that it exists today. And 3, do not ever let Facebook and Instagram convince you that everybody's a coach, when in reality, there are 7.6 billion people on this earth, and the amount of coaches there are is the tiniest of fractions compared to that, even though technically everybody could benefit from having a coach. So why am I starting with this? I'm starting with this because if you are an aspiring coach, this is the greatest time on earth to pursue that goal, to pursue that career, to become the coach that you know you can be, because we are at the very forefront of a gigantic movement. The coaching gold rush is what we've been calling it, the insiders of the industry, the coaching gold rush. Because like back however many years ago, in the depths of America and wherever it was, in the mountains, in the hills, the gold rush, when people would literally rush to these different places to then go and pickaxe their way, these prospectors would go and find gold in hills. This is similar to that, except the gold exists in adding value to other people's lives by becoming a niched coach and helping people accelerate their progression in a very, very particular area of their lives. That is more valuable than gold anyway, because gold is limited, it's scarce, it's just a metal that we've made the decision has some value. That doesn't have value compared to the breakthrough moments you're able to help people have when you coach them. being able to help people accelerate their progress in their relationships, in their financial life, in their diets, in their mindset, in their confidence, in their spirituality, getting people unstuck, breaking down their limiting beliefs, increasing their confidence, achieving their goals. This is what real life is about. That's what life is built upon, the progression of the human experience. And that is what coaching allows people to do. It allows them to have a much, much clearer, more vibrant, happier, more fulfilled, more successful human experience. It allows people to be more connected with who they are, what they're doing, where they are, what they want, where they're going. It's human experience that we are helping provide to people, which is why it will always be more valuable than gold. So me calling it the coaching gold rush, that doesn't even do it justice. And like I said, we're at the very, very beginning. Now, having said that, it's a growing industry. Make no mistake about it. It's a growing industry. But honestly, statistically, in my lifetime, I'm 31 years old. In my lifetime, I will not ever see the coaching industry scratch the surface. And I know that for a fact. I will not see it because, like we said before, there are 7.6 billion people on this earth, all of which could benefit from at least one coach. Within my lifetime, I'm not going to see the coaching industry get close to the level of potential that it actually has, which essentially is unlimited. So the fact that you have made the decision to start exploring becoming a coach, or that you are a coach already, you are an aspiring coach, and you're listening to this podcast or you're watching this live, congratulations, because you are in the right place at the right time. And what you need to do is you need to make sure that you're passionate about this. You need to make sure you've got the energy, you've got the focus. You need to make sure that you become well trained, that you know how to grow your coaching business, that you add value to people's lives, and that eventually, and this doesn't need to take long, you then get to the point where you're able to do most of that stuff passively. So you've got more time and more money. We've done it. It's more than possible. It can be done. It's there. It's available, right? It's a growing industry, right? It is a growing industry. Now, in fact, just talking like some numbers, just some preliminary numbers, as it were, the coaching industry, I had recently believed it was a $14 billion industry, and it's grown even since then. We're talking about it being a $15 billion industry, actually reaching a $20 billion industry by the end of this year. That's how much it's growing. So just imagine that for a moment. You don't even need to imagine it. Just think about it, because it's the reality that we're faced with right now. Being in a $15 to $20 billion industry that is growing every single year. Now, every single year that goes by, you have the potential and the opportunity to have been one of the earliest adopters of coaching. Now, I'm extremely happy that I got into coaching when I did, which actually was about 5 years ago, and as a young man at the time, I was 26 years old, just nearly 27, stepping into the coaching space. This was new. The vast majority of coaches that were in that space were the people that had been in the coaching space since the 80s, right? Since the 70s and 80s. They made no effort to update it whatsoever. They're regurgitating the same bullshit techniques that they had back in the 1970s, and none of them were living by it. They weren't actually living by the tools and techniques that they stand up in front of audiences and preach about and teach. They were not living it. They weren't using the tools and the techniques and the methods, right, that we teach other people. So we had to come along and shake things up. I felt very strongly about that. Lewis felt strongly about that. We met at the perfect time. We created the Coaching Masters, and we managed to make our stamp early on in this growing industry, right? Which is now worth between $15 to $20 billion worldwide. And it's getting bigger year on year on year. Now, why is it getting bigger? This is something that I want to talk about. Now, the reason why it's growing so much is because there are great coaching opportunities in niche sectors. That's one of the reasons why it is growing so much. And that's one of the main reasons as to why I don't think it's justified when people say coaching has been around since the 1970s, because coaching was still very much an idea in the 1970s. We've really created and pushed the idea of niching inside of the coaching space. I mean, when I first started out as a coach, still then, right, and this was only 5 years ago, the general consensus was that you became a coach and you tried to help everybody with everything. You just helped the people that happened to fall upon your website and phone you up and say they had a problem. Whereas that was just such an awful way of going about things. But niching, becoming very, very, very niche in your particular sector of coaching, that is one of the main reasons why the coaching industry is growing so much, because people are realizing the benefits of having a one-to-one coach in a very particular area of their life of which they would like better results. So for instance, when somebody once upon a time was struggling with their relationship, they may have gone to a therapist, right, in the hopes that that therapist would help heal what needs to be healed in their relationship as them as individuals. But that therapist would also be seeing people about addiction. They would also be seeing people about depression and anxiety. There wasn't any sort of specialist viewpoint, right? But now we have got coaches in very niche sections. For instance, there will be coaches that not only are relationship coaches, but there will be relationship coaches for men in their 40s who have a net worth of over $1 million going through a divorce, for example, right? Now, how niche is that? That is extremely niche. And you might hear that and think, wow, surely that's too niche. But let's imagine just for a moment that you became known as the coach to help men going through a divorce who's worth over a net worth of $1 million develop their relationships with themselves and with other people. Imagine if you were that relationship coach. For every single man who's worth over $1 million going through a divorce, you are going to be the only coach that person and that people in that sector want to see and want to speak to. And the thing is, what's so wonderful about the age of the internet is that you could connect with all of those men in every country around the world. So you don't need to be reliant on there being men who need relationship coaching, who have a net worth of over $1 million, who are going through a divorce, living within 5 miles of where you live, because that would have just been ridiculous, right? And that's part of the reason as to why niching back in the day, once upon a time, was way more difficult. It was so much more difficult because people were reliant on coaching people who were in their immediate area where they lived, right? But those days are dead, long gone. I coach people now that I could very easily actually meet with in person to go and do a sit down meeting, and I'll still choose not to, because why? What's the point? You know, I can still coach people just as successfully in this medium that you're watching me essentially teach right now. So anyway, the internet happened, right? And this, of course, pushed the coaching industry in a dramatic way. Now people are able to find their particular niche, and they're able to coach people within that niche all around the world, right? So that's a big reason as to why the coaching industry is absolutely booming, and it's booming year on year, which is just fantastic to see. Another reason why it is absolutely a phenomenal time for you to get into the coaching space at the moment. And this is something that a lot of people don't actually realize, but the coaching industry is what is known as an unregulated industry. So just to give you an example of what that actually means, if you work in the financial industry, which is a regulated industry, in order for you to be a financial advisor, you need to go through a series of very, very rigorous exams and rigorous tests, and you need to pass all sorts of different assessments to be able to have one very specific stamp from one very specific organization to say that you are allowed to advise people financially, right? For example. Coaching, on the other hand, is inside of an unregulated industry, which means that you're able to coach people without that stamp. Technically, you're able to do whatever way you want, right? In whatever way you want. Now, what does that mean? That means that technically, in the coaching space, right, you can do anything you want. Now, how crazy is that to think about that for a moment? Technically, in the coaching space, you could create a website tomorrow with zero experience and say, I am a coach, right? And you could even create a niche and say, I am a coach for men who work in the media industry, overcome past trauma, right? Now, even though technically that's true, that you're able to do that because it's an unregulated industry, obviously, the success of your coaching business lies within the results of your coaching. And this is why organizations like the Coaching Masters exist, to make sure that coaches are very, very, very highly trained, so that when they go and start coaching people, they know what they're doing. They know what questions to ask. They know what tools and techniques to use. They know what direction to gently guide their clients in. They know what to do, right? That's why the Coaching Masters exists, to make sure that the NLP coaches out there, to make sure the life coaches out there, to make sure the mindset coaches out there, or any other niche in which you work within, you know what you're doing. And not only do you know what you're doing, but you're doing it to a very, very, very high standard. But still, the fact that the coaching industry is an unregulated industry, of course, it opens opportunity because it gives you freedom to move. It gives you the ability to use your inspiration, to use your creativity in order to grow your coaching business. Whereas if you worked in the financial industry, of course, you need to follow a very specific set of steps within a very specific set of regulations within that industry in order to be able to progress your career or do any certain different things. With coaching, you can use absolute creativity in order to grow your coaching business, to become well known as a coach, to be able to become that expert. Like I've said before, you absolutely must pair that with knowing what you're doing. You have to, because you're not going to last very long, because you're not going to be adding value to people's lives. If you're just guessing and you're making it up and you don't really know what you're doing, you're going to be in and out of this thing instantly, because you're not going to add any value to people's lives. You're not going to give any of those clients any breakthroughs. You're not going to give them any realizations. You're not going to help them. And at the end of the day, we're in the business of helping. We need to actually help our clients in order for us to be successful. And you know what? Unless you actually trained at somewhere like the Coaching Masters, and in all honesty, unless you trained at the Coaching Masters, you're also not going to have any idea how to get clients, right? Because all of the other coaching organizations, they don't teach you how to get clients. They just teach you some very basic tools and techniques and methods and frameworks. Like, for instance, the Coaching Academy, their version of the accreditation, half of the course is the GROW model, which is fucking ridiculous when you think about it. The GROW model is one of the elements on the 12-week program at the Coaching Masters, right? It's one of the elements on one of the weeks within the 12 weeks. And about half of the Coaching Academy's course is the GROW model, which is just absurd. But anyway, as well as that, they don't have any kind of indication or teaching and instruction of how to actually get clients, or indeed how to niche down. So why am I talking about this in terms of it being an opportunity? And why is this very important to aspiring coaches? It's very important because the sheer fact that the coaching industry is an unregulated industry once again completely and utterly highlights the fact that it is in its infancy, right? It highlights the fact that it's in its infancy. It highlights the fact that it's at the very, very beginning stages, because will it remain unregulated forever? One, I don't know. Two, I shouldn't think so. No, I shouldn't think that it will remain unregulated forever. Now, of course, there are certain organizations that are doing great work to help make sure that coaching training is of a very, very high standard. The International Authority of Professional Coaching and Mentoring and the Complementary Medical Association are the two that I would listen to, right? They are the two coaching organizations, governing bodies out there in the big wide world who genuinely care about the level in which their trainers are training. There are other organizations, especially within the world of NLP, that I would never listen to ever. And if they were to ever give me any guidance or advice, I certainly would move in the other direction. And if they wanted any form of collaboration between us, there is no way that we would make that happen. And this goes for not only NLP, but coaching in all of its different styles, right? And again, just to remind you of some of the different styles that we spoke about before: theories of change, motivational interviewing, behavioral coaching, narrative coaching, there's transpersonal coaching. There's all of these different styles. They're all going to have their own governing bodies. But you know what? Complementary Medical Association and the International Authority of Professional Coaching and Mentoring are the two that we listen to, right? And they go a very long way in making sure that their coaching training that they not regulate, because it's not a regulated industry, but they put their stamp of approval on, is of a very, very high quality. So just bear that in mind, because I think that's a very, very important thing to remember. But it's an unregulated industry. It may not remain that way forever, but at the moment you have a lot of freedom within the coaching industry to become the type of coach that you want to become and grow the type of coaching business that you want to grow. Another reason why it is an incredible opportunity for those aspiring coaches, and I know we spoke a bit about this before on another podcast episode, which was called How Much Money Do Life Coaches Really Make? It's the income stream opportunity. I mean, this, of course, is something that people are going to be very, very interested in, because this is the reason initially why we get into business, right? Now, of course, other reasons which are paired with this one are that we are passionate about a particular topic. There's a certain type of person that we want to help. There's a certain place that we want to go to. There's a certain authority we want to build or a reputation we want to have. There are loads of different reasons as to why somebody starts a business. Starting a coaching business and being an aspiring coach is no different, right? But the income streams, of course, is a very, very big part of that. And if anybody was to deny that or neglect that, I would say that business in general is not the place for you to be, because this is actually a very important element of business as a whole, right? Is the actual money that you're going to make from business. And the money that you're able to make from being a successful online life coach is phenomenal, like way more than what I was ever making in any of my jobs. And I've had jobs that have ranged from really crappy jobs where I get paid pennies, like being a barman and a postman. And I was a stockbroker at one point, and that job wasn't, back then I thought, yeah, this is really, really good money. And now looking at it in hindsight compared to what I make in my coaching business. And when I say coaching business, I'm referring to the Coaching Masters and when I was just a standalone coach. It was peanuts, like it really was peanuts. So the income streams and the income possibilities are, of course, a huge element as to why this is an amazing opportunity for people that want to get into coaching, all the way from its very, very, very basic beginnings, which is charging money for coaching sessions, right? That is as basic as it gets when it comes to income streams. That's the very beginning. And you know what's really, really interesting is that a lot of people, when they first get into coaching or they're thinking about getting into coaching, they think that's the only income stream, which is not true. They think that, okay, yeah, but I'm a coach now. I charge people for coaching sessions. That's it, right? That's what I'm able to do. And it's absolutely not true. That's the first income stream, right? That's the beginning of the income streams. Now, I know we spoke about this previously on the other podcast episode. If you've not listened to it yet, go and listen to How Much Money Do Online Life Coaches Really Make? It was a few episodes ago. Go and listen to it. And of course, we dived into the details of charging per coaching session or per package. Never charge per coaching session. It's too unreliable. Doesn't make any sense. There's no journey that's been created for your client. There's no outcome that's been really spoken about. It's just very wishy-washy. Rubbish. Don't do it. Charge per coaching package. That package has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It has a linear journey. It has an outcome. It has additional benefits. And naturally, you can charge more money for that. And it's good that you do that, because the more money your client pays, the more invested they are. The more invested they are, the more likely they are to apply what it is that is being covered in those coaching sessions. The more likely they are to get the results. And at the end of the day, people want the result. They don't give a shit about anything else, right? They don't care about the journey, really. They don't care about how they get the result. They don't really even care about when, as long as the result is achieved. So in addition to that, there's also the ability to do group coaching, which is a very interesting thing where many people pay a smaller amount of money. But the reason why that is very, very powerful is because, of course, it takes up a lot less of your time and you're able to make more money by getting people in a group setting. You're able to do group coaching in the online format. I mean, just bear in mind when I talk about this stuff, I'm referring to it, all of it being online. But I know that the image when it comes to group coaching that people conjure up in their mind is like a group of people sitting in one room, which of course you can do. But naturally you can do it online, which is really the preferred method because it's just a lot more efficient. There's events that you can run. We've done this within the Coaching Masters. We've run multiple events in the past. You can collaborate with other people in the coaching space, the personal development space, the mindset space to put on an event. People buy a ticket to an event. They attend the event. You make money from ticket sales. But as well as that, it's a great opportunity to then sell a coaching package or one of your other products at the end of an event. You can even do events for free if you know that statistically there's going to be a certain amount of people that then buy your coaching package at the end, for instance, right? There's digital products that you can create, for instance, like podcasts like this one, which can be monetized, audiobooks, ebooks, for instance. There's retreats that you can run as well. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on, because what you need to realize is that when you're in the coaching space, you're in the personal development space, you're in the mindset development space, you're in the space, the self-development space, where people want to have more information, they want more insight, they want more guidance, because bettering ourselves within the amount of time that we have on this earth, that's very important. It's really important that we do that. It's hugely important, because if we're not bettering ourselves each day, each week, each month, as we all move slowly closer towards the end of our lives, then what's the point? If we're not improving, if we're not growing, if we're not becoming a better version of ourselves, if we're not having big realizations, if we're not taking those chances, if we're not growing that business, if we're not having that relationship we want, we're all moving slowly towards the end of our lives, some quicker than others, right? And we don't know the circumstances around that. Sometimes you can get sick, you can have an accident, whatever, right? We don't know the length of our lives, but there's one thing we do know, and that's that we're all moving closer towards the end every single day. So bettering ourselves to enhance the experience that we've got whilst we're here, obviously a very attractive thing for a lot of people, and people are willing to pay a lot of money for that, because that becomes more important than the digit that you've got on your digital bank balance. So there's loads of different income stream opportunities when you are a coach, because you're helping people progress through their lives more efficiently, more effectively, with more fulfillment, with more fun, with more success. And that's always inevitably worth more than the money that they have. And then also as well, there's the operating costs of running a coaching business. I mean, this really is not spoken about enough. But the operating costs are so minimal that in reality, you could run a very successful coaching business for free, right? Now, in terms of an upfront cost, of course, there are a few things that you absolutely want to invest in, right? Like, for instance, the Coaching Masters membership, okay? Coaching Masters membership, it's clearly obvious as to why that would be a very, 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 very effective yet very small monthly investment, because that's where you receive a lot of training via the Coaching Masters in the realms of coaching, NLP, how to build your coaching business, how to get clients, how to start your own online course. You know, you've got demonstrations of live coaching sessions, you've got the legalities, you've got guest expert speakers, you've got an entire directory where you can get clients. For obvious reasons, that would be an amazing first investment to make. But then that aside, you know, once you've purchased that laptop, that's it. You know, maybe you don't even need to purchase a laptop. Maybe you can borrow one. Maybe you can get given one off someone. You know, who knows? Whatever, right? As long as you get your hands on one, then all of a sudden, right, you've got Wi-Fi in public spaces, which often is free to use, especially in hotel lobbies. There's a little tip for you if you're first starting out as a coach. They tend to be nice, quiet little cubby holes with free Wi-Fi. And you're going to use Zoom, which is completely free to use. And that's that. You've got your training. You know how to coach somebody. And all you need is your laptop, Wi-Fi, and Zoom. That is it. That's all you need. Now, you could be selling coaching packages for $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. I mean, I've sold coaching packages for a lot more than that. Of course, I've reached a certain level now. I've earned my stripes, and I know that when I coach somebody, it's rare, but the result is going to happen, and it's the exact result they want. But, you know, even if you're first starting out, how awesome would it be to be able to sell a coaching package for $1,500? And when you deliver that, your operating costs are nil. Trust me, there are not many businesses out there in the big wide world that can say that. There really are not. Like, honestly, there are not. Just think about this for a moment, right? The average beginner's price that you would charge for, say, a 12-week coaching package, $1,500. Let's say $1,500. That really is beginner, but you wouldn't want to charge any less than that, really. But let's just break that down, shall we? You know, it's $1,500 that has been charged for a 12-week coaching package, which is 3 months, right? So it's $500 a month. So let's imagine you made $500 a month every month for 3 months. And the time commitment was 1 hour a week, because that's the length of your coaching session. One session, once a week for 12 weeks, $1,500, that's $500 a week for an hour a week of your time. So of course, all you need to do is bring on 2 clients and you're making $1,000 a month. Sorry, $500 a month. You're making $1,000 a month, right? For 2 hours of your time per week. And your operating costs are nil, right? Now let's think about the overheads of a coffee shop for a moment, right? They're paying an outrageous amount of money every single month on rent and rent alone. Rent is something you never need to worry about inside of your coaching business. Go out there and rent a room or an office if you want. You don't need to. You can do it from wherever you are, right? So rent, you don't need to worry about rent. Then all of a sudden, as well as the rent, they need to spend a gigantic amount of money on wages for their employees. You don't need to do that. You don't need to pay anyone. You don't need to pay any rent. You don't need to pay any wages. Then on top of that, they've got to pay an extortionate amount of money for raw materials, supplies. In this case, coffee beans, bread for the sandwiches, cheese for the sandwiches, ham for the sandwiches, blueberries for the muffins. Every single one of it all costs money, right? So they're paying rent, they're paying wages, they're paying raw materials. You don't need to pay any of that stuff. Now, in order for them to make all of that money back, they're selling a product for about £2, right? £2.50, your average cup of coffee, £2, right? Now, let's say on average, everyone goes in there and gets a coffee and a muffin. We're talking like £4.80, something ridiculous like that. They need to sell a hell of a lot of coffees and muffins and sandwiches before they ever make their first $1,500 in profit. Because you've got to remember, the vast majority of that money that they're making is all going towards paying off the expenses, paying the rent, paying the wages, paying for the raw materials, right? So they have to sell an unreal amount of coffees before they even break even, right? Let alone make $1,500 in profit. You have to sell one coaching package and you have $1,500 in profit instantly. Just think about that for a moment, right? No rent to pay, no raw materials, no paying wages, right? Instant. Now, 2 coaching packages, 3,000. 3 coaching packages, 4,500, right? And of course, it grows and it grows and grows. So within the Coaching Masters, we teach you the systems in which you get a steady stream of paying clients. We teach you some incredible stuff about how to get paying clients inside of the Coaching Masters membership. And of course, if you want to learn more about that, make sure you click the link inside of the description of this podcast episode. But it just, for all of the aspiring coaches, it baffles me. Like, it really baffles me. I live in the middle of London and I walk down the street every day. I look at offline businesses. And you know what? Once upon a time, there was a time when I was delivering the mail and I used to go into all of these different businesses, right? And I'd deliver mail to the coffee shops and I'd deliver mail to the restaurants, I'd deliver mail to the salons. And I used to really daydream about owning a business. That's what I wanted, to own a business, to be my own boss in order to just make my own decisions, right? I've always hated the idea of being told what to do, when to do it, where to go, how to dress, what time to turn up, and all of that. It just doesn't compute with me. I hate it. And so I'd be delivering the mail and I'd be daydreaming about this, like going into the coffee shop and thinking, imagine owning a coffee shop, and going into the salon and imagine owning a salon or a restaurant or something like that. And I honestly now couldn't think of anything worse. I really couldn't think of anything worse. It's like our offline hubs are a massive contributing, they contribute in a big way to our offline industry. Like, for instance, the Coaching Masters is entirely 100% online. And in Bali at the moment, we've got Cafe Coach, right? Our offline cafe. And that feeds into the online part of the business, which is of course the 99.9% of the business. But the idea of having a coffee shop and that being my only business, it just sends shivers down my spine. I couldn't think of anything worse now, or having a restaurant. I just don't understand the appeal of having a restaurant. Just knowing the amount of money that you need to spend in rent and wages and raw materials and product and training and all of that stuff. And obviously the cleanliness of the restaurant, to then hope that you're going to scratch some of that money back by selling a meal, which on average is probably going to be like £15, when thousands of pounds are being made per coaching package, which you can run entirely from your laptop, from Wi-Fi at home. It just is absurd to me at the moment. Really, really, really absurd. And, even back then when I was delivering the mail and I wanted that, I wanted my own business, I nearly invested. I can't even remember what it was. It was like, I didn't even have the money for this, but it was like £6,000 or £7,000 in a coffee bicycle, right? A coffee bicycle. It's a franchise company. I think it's actually called Coffee Bike or something like that. And I was dead serious about doing it. I was like, I'm going to buy this coffee bike and I can go and sell coffee and I can be my own boss. And at the time I was thinking, I don't care if I need to work all around the clock, 15 hours a day, as long as I can be my own boss and make a little bit of money. And, now like the idea of doing anything like that in the offline space is absurd. I would hate it. I wouldn't want to do that whatsoever. And that's only because I discovered the power of coaching. So just to summarize on what we've been talking about today, for those people that are listening to this podcast, you are at the very, very, very forefront, the very beginning of an industry that's in its infancy. And I'm talking really in its infancy. It hasn't really been around since the 70s, like people say. That was essentially when the first idea of coaching came about, but it's developed so much since then. The coaching that we know today is brand new. It's brand new. And the wave hasn't even broken yet, right? We are at the forefront of this wave and it isn't even close to breaking. So if you're listening to this podcast episode, if you are watching this live inside of Coaching Mastery, congratulations and well done, because you have made an unbelievable decision to be inside of what will become the biggest industry in the world, which will not even scratch the surface within our lifetime, which is the new gold rush, which is right here at the very, very, very beginning stages. And you have made the decision that you are an aspiring coach. So you have that ability to change people's lives, to add value to their lives, to give them breakthroughs, to help increase their confidence, break down their limiting beliefs, to help accelerate their progress within any area of their life in which you niche and specialize. People are willing to pay a lot of money for it because it's highly valuable and it's something that can be delivered 100% online with no wages, no raw materials, very little to no startup costs, no rent that needs to be paid. Like the industry itself is doing all of the convincing. I don't need to do any of the convincing anymore. And even when I just talk about it, and today's podcast has been a little bit of a stream of consciousness in that way. Like I just wanted to think about this as a topic because it's not something that I think about. It's something that I have thought about a lot over the last few years, of course. But now, of course, I'm growing the Coaching Masters. It's not something I think about on a daily basis. But when I really do stop and think about the opportunity that is inside of the coaching space, it reminds me of what's in front of us. Like it reminds me of, or I suppose it doesn't remind, it just reminds. That's a remind. It reminds me of what's in front of us. And God, it really is unbelievable. Like it is unbelievable when you think about it. To be at the forefront of this growing industry, of which all of you are, if you're listening to this, you're all at the forefront of it. I can't even imagine what we're going to be doing in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. It's going to be huge. It's going to be life-changing, world-changing, game-changing. And you're there. You're at the forefront. So well done and congratulations. So make sure you click the link that's in the description of this live or in the link of the description of this podcast for something incredibly valuable and free from the Coaching Masters. You're amazing. You're powerful. You're valid. You're listened to. You're heard and understood by myself and TCM. I'm proud of every single one of you. You really are at the forefront of something unbelievable. So I love you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I love you all. Keep coaching your way to freedom.